Hello, everyone. How was your summer? Is it too short the way it always is? Yeah. You have 15 months of classes and then like 3 days of summer. It's kind of the way it seems. Yeah. Swear, like I went to sleep and woke up and it was fall again. I'm excited to be here, but it's kind of it's a weird tension. Like I'm always excited for the first day of classes and for the semester to start, but I always feel like my summers are too short. Is that contradictory? Yeah, I don't know. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Barnes, Michael Barnes Jr. I am the instructor for the AIS courses here at Truman State. I welcome you to the introductory AIS course, Accounting Information Systems. Uh, it's called Accounting Information Systems, and those of you who are accounting majors, it's a required course for your major, but I do know that there's a number of students in here who are not accounting majors, and so you are welcome as well. We're going to learn about accounting, but we're also going to learn about business in general, and hopefully have some helpful tools along the way. So today I'm just going to be going over the syllabus along with some details about the course that you need to know. I believe so we've got kind of a unique situation. I think we have the 27 core students who are in here. The reason I say core is that we have one student that's doing this online. And it's a special situation. So if you look for the online, or if you go on the class list and look for the 28th student, that's somebody who's not going to be here in present. Plus, we may actually have a faculty member joining us. I'm teaching this, I think, for the seventh time in a row, but this is going to be taken over by Professor Greiner next semester. So he may be joining us for some class sessions as he's going to be learning about the course and the content as well. That being said, we're going to be meeting pretty much every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 here in this classroom. This classroom does present some interesting challenges. So I do like the fact that we have computers. It is a technology course, and so it's great to have computers in front of us. That being said, about a third of this course is lecture. And especially for those of you who are kind of in the back two rows, you know it's really easy to do during the lecture? It's really easy to do this. Yeah, yeah. And so it's going to be a challenge at times. Yeah, sometimes you can like, especially for those of you who are a little bit shorter, you can like peek over the top and kind of see them catch eye contact that way, or you can move the monitors either way. I would love to tell you that all of my lectures are super exciting, but again, it's accounting technology. So technology exciting, accounting not so much at times. That being said, it is only a third of the course. Most of the things that we're going to be talking about in this course are going to be applied technology or applied tools. So I do try to limit the boredom, as it were. I will say on Mondays, those are going to be the days that you may need that extra shot of caffeine. You may have to slam a Red Bull, especially when we get to some of the early chapters. But we'll do our best. We'll do our best to get through it. And I do want to encourage you that during those days, while I encourage you to use those computer tools in front of you, they can actually be very, very helpful. Use them for productive purposes, not for placing bets on fantasy football games or checking out social media for your favorite stars. Try to use them for taking notes and making sure that you learn about the course in general. I'm only asking for 2.5 hours a week. Hopefully, it's not going to be too much. And again, most of this is going to be hands-on active stuff that we're going to be doing. It's just the Mondays that are going to be up to you guys to keep engaged. So as far as this course goes, I do want to talk a little bit about the some of the changes to the course. So first and foremost, you can see my office hours here. I want to, since most of you, I don't think I've met a few of you in this classroom, but I've never had anybody in this classroom in a course before. So I want to make sure that we're very clear. My office hours are generally I'm going to be throughout the day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday when I'm not in class, and then also on Tuesday morning. Those are not restricted to come and talk to me. Like you do not need to reserve and say, well, Dr. Barnes is in office, but it's not office hours. That's forbidden. You can come talk to me whenever I'm in my office. If I'm not in my office, you can send me an email. And if it's something very, very important, I will do my best to either get to campus to talk to you or set up a Zoom call. There are some times that you probably should not expect to talk to me like midnight. I'm not young anymore. I'm generally well asleep by when it comes to midnight. I'm also not a morning person, so if you try to get me before 8 a.m., that's going to be a little bit rough. But as far as it goes, I will do my best to talk to you. You do not need to reserve the weekend as alone time. If you need to talk to me on the weekend, it may take some time for me to get back to you, but I will get back to you. Okay. I try to make myself as available as possible to answer questions. If they are detailed questions, I try to set up calls. Some of my students just are very, very thorough and they ask me like 15 pages of questions in one email. And I'm like, I am not typing that out. Okay. But we got AI tools for that now. So that's going to be helpful. Yeah. So sometimes I'll set up a Zoom call so we can talk. I will try to do my best to be available for whenever your schedule is. If you can come to my office hours, great. If you can't, we'll work something out. Is everybody clear on that? It's not, there's no restriction on office hours here. These are just the office hours that you can know that 100% of the time will be available, or 95% of the time. Sometimes I might not be available. Like tomorrow at 9:30, I've actually got a meeting during office hours. So if you come to my office hours tomorrow morning and say he lied, it's like I'm telling you right now, I do have an exception. Okay, it will happen. The exceptions do come up. The textbook for this course is going to be the 4th edition of Accounting Information Systems. Now, I do want to talk about this. There's always some confusion that goes on with this. So the first question is, can I use an earlier edition? The answer is no. All right. They have made some substantial changes from the previous edition to this edition, so you do need the current edition. I give you some information about this. If you want to have Connect access as well as ebook access, it's you can actually get it through this website here in the link. It's about $184.66. Now I realize that that's a lot of money. Okay, and you're college students, you're probably really, really concerned about money. So I want to make this very, very clear, and I usually say this once throughout the semester, okay? You are required to have the textbook for this course. You do need to have the textbook. You can't finish the assignments. If you want to get like a group of 5 of you that share a textbook, that's absolutely fine. Technically speaking, you do need Connect access, as some of the tools that we're going to be using are going to be accessed through Connect. That being said, you do not specifically need to have sign up for Connect, and I will provide all of those materials on Brightspace. Okay, so it's basically up to your own personal qualms as to whether or not you want to get Connect. If you want to be thorough and get Connect with this course and do everything, make sure the publisher gets all their dues, that's fine. If you just want to access the textbook and say Dr. Barnes will give me anything else I need, no judgment here. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right now, technically speaking, you should be getting Connect, and the packages that you get through the bookstore will access Connect. I will not be putting stuff on Connect. There's really good reasons to have Connect, by the way. There's some actual algorithmic learning exercises, some activities, anything that you need support on. If you want to actually see the publisher slides, you can get them access to Connect. There's a lot of really cool tools to Connect, but it is not required. Well, I shouldn't say required. It is not necessary to finish the assignments in this course. Does everybody understand? Our first assignment is going to be due next Wednesday. You do need to have access to the textbook by then, okay? So if you don't have it early this week, if you've been waiting and saying, I'm going to wait till wait to hear what he says about textbooks before I buy the textbook, that's fine, but you do need to have access to the textbook on Wednesday. If it comes Tuesday and you need to finish the homework assignment, I strongly recommend you become friends with somebody nearby in the course so you can borrow their textbook, as my sympathy will not be like, well, my sympathy will be like, I told you that you need to have it by Wednesday, and here comes Wednesday. Okay. So I do encourage that, by the way, work together, because if somebody asks you for a favor, you can call on them for a favor in the future. It's like The Godfather. Okay. Has anybody ever seen The Godfather? Yeah. Okay. You should see The Godfather at least once in your life. Let me recommend that. Okay. That's not a requirement for this course, by the way. All right. As far as this course goes, I actually have a primary mode of delivery that's here in this class, and I'm thrilled that everybody is here in person. I hope to continue that throughout the semester. I do have some students who are actually online learners. I got one student who's going to be taking this course online, but I think it's a very big challenge to take this course online. And for the undergraduate level, this is not an online course for the most part. The unique circumstances for this one student notwithstanding, okay? I expect everybody who's in this room to be in this room every single time for the semester. I do realize that things will come up, particularly for those of you who are student athletes. Fridays may be a problem and may not be able to show up for classes, and that's fine if you can't be here, but I hope that you will be here as many times as possible. Okay, we'll talk about my attendance policy here in just a little bit. It is a bit rigorous, but I do want to make sure that you understand that most of the learning takes place when my mouth is yapping. Okay, when my mouth is moving, that's when learning occurs. Okay. For those of you who are here in the class, you will notice that I've got this little bar up here, which means that I'm recording this via Zoom. That's for our online learner. Also, I publish everything, all of my lectures, to the YouTube channel. Pretty much every class session will be on YouTube. The exceptions to that will be I will not record the exams. I will not record the exam review sessions, but I will record everything else that's associated with that, or exam discussion sections. So if you ever need to go back and say, I can't remember exactly what he said during this class session, you now have the YouTube link to associate with that. Okay. Here's the Connect link. Even though I'm not using Connect for this course, I do set up a Connect session on McGraw-Hill's web space so that you can access the tools through Connect. Again, if you have Connect access, you can sign up through that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So this is pretty much the course objectives and the topic covered. topics covered. I'm not going to go through these because we'll be going throughout these through the semester. Suffice to say that it's going to be very heavily based on accounting technology and technology tools that we use in accounting and business. All right, so let's talk about the format for this course. I've already alluded to this a little bit. If I just stood up here and lectured every single class period, that would get very boring and tedious very quickly. I would put myself to sleep, all right? So I try not to do that. I'm a very hands-on person. I don't do well in presentations. Like when we have online meetings and presentations and say, we're going to spend the next 50 minutes talking to you about things that you're going to learn with related to accounting information systems. I'm already checked out. Okay. I don't do well in meetings like that. And so I'm as bad as I say. You remember I saying don't be online because I do webinars, and usually in a webinar I catch like 3 seconds worth of content and the rest of my time is what's on Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. That's how a boomer I am. I'm a Facebook guy. Yeah. All right. So I try to avoid that. It's not, I can't avoid it entirely because a lot of the content is going to be delivery through information that I'm going to be giving you. Technically speaking, you could read it and get it, but I do have very specific areas that I focus on. Most of it is going to be in the textbook. Some of it will be information that I'll include as additional to that. I do write my own slides. I do prepare my own slides for this course. And so the focus of the course will be on the content in the slides and in the presentation, and not necessarily everything that's in the book. If you want to read the book, I encourage you to do so. That's absolutely fine. But please keep in mind that everything that's in the book is not necessarily going to be on the exam. The stuff that will be on the exam will be the stuff that I cover in the study guides, which represents the things that I cover in the course. Okay, is everybody clear on that? If you want to read the book, I encourage you to do so. There's a lot of good material out there, but I don't necessarily test on everything that's in the book. So we're going to come in on Mondays, generally speaking. I say generally speaking because we're going to diverge from that for the first few weeks because of the weird schedule. But generally speaking, we'll come in on Mondays, and that will be the boring day. Monday will be the day that I'm standing up here talking and I'm telling you all the things about wonderful world of AIS. And sometimes we'll be better than others. We start talking about data analytics. We start talking about cybersecurity, and we get to blockchain and AI. Those will be kind of fun topics. When we start talking about diagramming processes and structure versus activity diagrams, that's actually early on in the course. We start talking about that. That's going to be the ones that you're going to be like, wow, this is really rough. And it doesn't help that this room is a lot warmer than I'm used to it being. Okay. When the warm room is there, that's when the snoozing starts right there. But that's going to be Mondays. Wednesdays will generally be reserved for use of our ERP tool. So ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning, and it's basically an expanded version of an AIS tool. We actually have a license through Oracle. It's a company called or a program called NetSuite that we're going to be working through some exercises and activities. These will largely be self-contained to the class. You will have very little work that you'll have to do outside of class, but we'll spend the first part of our class sessions talking about that, and then on Wednesdays we'll do homework. Now, my homework policy is a little bit weird, okay? First of all, my homework policy is completion-based rather than accuracy-based. So what does that mean? It means that I'm going to give you some side work that you'll have to do. You will have to complete the assignment. If you get every single question wrong, you can still get full credit for it, okay? That doesn't mean that you should just arbitrarily circle answers on the multiple choice. I do expect you to actually put some effort in trying to answer the questions because ultimately you will be tested on this material, so you want to learn it. But even if you're struggling on the material and the content and the homework, I'm not going to grade that. And that's something I do for all my classes. I'm very, very focused on making sure completion takes place first and the effort is there. I don't want to penalize you for something that you may or may not know. But try to answer the questions correctly, obviously, but don't worry about it if you don't get the questions perfectly correct. So we'll do a homework, and basically you'll turn in the homework before class, and then on Wednesday, we'll review the homework. And we'll talk about what the correct answers are and what you should be learning. That's where you want to take diligent notes, by the way. That's where you want to say, all right, Dr. Barnes said this was the answer, and here's some information he gave about this. I probably should jot this down because it may be relevant to the exams. By the way, hint, it is very relevant to the exams, okay? So if I give you information on the homework assignments and I say, yeah, something you should be thinking about when you answer this question is A, B, C, you should write down A, B, C, all right? Not literally A, B, C, but you know what I'm saying, okay? And then Fridays are going to be dual structured as well. Fridays will start off with our Excel in-class activity. I'm sure everybody's taken BSAD 153 in this course, so you're learning the Excel fundamentals. So we're going to be reviewing some of those. We're going to expand upon those as well. I will say the first half of the class, you're going to be relearning stuff that you already knew. If I get into the Excel assignments, Excel activities, and it's like, I remember all this from 153, this is a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. It actually is good because that means you already know everything that I expect you to know for this class, okay? But if we start working on something, it's like, oh, I don't remember that. That will be a good refresher for us. I don't just repeat the stuff that you learned in a 153. It is put into a specific format. Usually I'll put into a structure that we'll actually learn from and we'll actually utilize it in a particular manner. Like I'll say, here's how I use this in my gradebook preparation or something like that. So we can actually see application of these tools in a real world setting. So we'll start out with that, and that's usually the first half of class. Those are not graded, by the way, but I strongly recommend when we're doing the Excel activities that you take diligent notes, as they are going to be on the exam. Anything that I teach you through the Excel activities. And then we got something unique. I just started this last spring, but I got really good feedback on it. And this is going to be our AI research project, which we're going to talk about. So something that's very interesting is that your generation is starting to use AI tools in a manner that my generation can't really conceive of. All right. And you can probably tell that because most of your classes, they say, no, don't use AI. Bad student, bad student. Okay. And they tell you that AI is not something they're familiar with. I will tell you, most of your instructors probably, they try to avoid the letters AI just as much as possible. And the only thing they say in the syllabus is don't use AI in this class. I am the exact opposite of that. I am trying to learn my best to find a way to use AI tools as much as possible. I will tell you that I'm probably the biggest consumer of AI in the School of Business and Professional Studies, maybe not the biggest, in the top 5 at least, okay? That being said, I would not be surprised if many of you in this room know more about utility of AI tools than I do, okay? I'm still learning, still exploring. I listen to audiobooks and podcasts like mad on this stuff, okay? I think that this is something that's inevitable and something that's going to only help you in your careers. There's an old saying that says that AI will not replace jobs, but people who can use AI will replace the jobs of those who can't use AI. So I think we have to hit the ground running and we have to know what we're doing. So this is going to be an open-ended AI research project. So every Friday in the last part of class, we're going to be talking about some AI ideas, some AI philosophies. We're going to be doing some hands-on stuff. And this is going to be for the purpose of you learning about AI tools and how you can utilize these in your own practice. This is going to culminate in a research project, which I'll show you the instructions for those here shortly. Before you start worrying and saying, oh, I'm not sure about a research project, this is not meant to be a research project that creates stress. This is supposed to be a research project that you find engaging and fun. I had a lot of students last year that took this to heart and they made some really, really good projects out of it. So I had one student who actually was involved in swimming and say, can I use AI to develop a better swimming routine? Which actually used this kind of as a pseudo swim coach. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Another student that came up with a really good idea is how can you use AI tools to improve haunted house experiences, which was pretty interesting, saying, okay, if it's scary at the front, then maybe you dial back the scariness in the later half. So some really cool stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be limited to business or accounting. There has to be some ancillary relationship, I think, but this is mostly for you to figure out how can I use AI tools and get you accustomed to use those. So this is where you start thinking about that. And I'll talk about a little bit about what the deliverables are for that shortly. All right, so let's talk about what you need to know for information in this course and for what the assignments are. So first things first, if you go into Brightspace, which Brightspace is open and set up, and I've got the first few weeks already prepared, one of the very first things is you're going to find that there is a quiz on there, okay? It's technically not a quiz, it's a questionnaire. Since I have not had anybody in this room in a class before, I don't know anything about you. So this is my way to learn about you. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to fill out the questionnaire. And this is due by Friday. This is actually due for a grade, 5 points in this course. More importantly, does everybody know the policy and substantive interaction in this at the university? If I go to Friday and the end of day Friday comes and somebody's not completed a questionnaire, I'm going to say, I wonder if they're in this course. Now, I won't, technically speaking, the Truman policy is if you've not completed the substantive interaction assignments, we're supposed to drop you from the course, okay? I won't do that, okay? I'll probably reach out to you and say, hey, are you going to complete the quiz? Are you still enrolled in the course? And they say, oh, my fault, Dr. Brad, sorry about that. And then quickly finish it and we're all good, okay? But this is the substantive interaction assignment. You have to complete this assignment to remain enrolled in this course. If I tell you now, you don't complete the assignment, and then I reach out to you on Friday and I don't hear anything, and then Monday comes, you still have completed the assignment, I'll probably have one last panicked, are you still in the course or not? Okay. And if I don't hear anything, then I drop you. Okay. So it is a very important assignment, not just for the purpose of me getting to know you, but also to make sure you're on board. Okay. As far as this goes, what's going to happen with this assignment is that I'm going to randomize a student list, and then I'm going to talk to you the rest of the semester because I like to get to know students. So first of all, I am terrible with faces. If you see me in the hall and you say, "Hey, Dr. Barnes," I'm hi you, because it takes me a long time to learn faces. In fact, for those of you who are accounting majors that are going to see me in auditing in the next year to year and a half, I will probably remember most of you. Some of you, I may say, yeah, yeah, okay, because it's nothing personal. I'm just not very good with facial recognition. We have this activity that we did a few years ago where we had baby pictures of our graduate students, and everybody had to try to guess who it was, which graduate student it was based on the baby picture. I got like 2 out of 20. Okay, I am just terrible with faces, and I don't know what it is. Okay, so this is my way of getting to know you and know a little bit about you. And so I will talk to you during the semester right before the start of class. I will not record it and post it to YouTube. I'm not going to share any of that content, but I will talk to you and get to know you. So at one point during the semester, I'm going to be calling on you and we're going to have a conversation. All right. The reason I mention this is that if you fill out this form, please don't put anything there personal that you don't want to be shared with other people. Okay. Keep it to content that you don't mind having me shared. If you are just completely and totally against me talking to you in a public environment, which has happened, let me know and I won't do that. Okay. It doesn't happen very often. I do encourage you to get comfortable talking in a public environment because we have presentations and everything, but I will respect your wishes. Okay. It's not a requirement for this course. All right, homework assignments, and we talked about that. Homework assignments topics in this class. For the most part, these homework assignments are pretty straightforward. They're only 5 points each, which if you're like, well, that's just a minimal amount, Dr. Barnes, why would I even bother with homework if it's not that much of the course? Well, they do add up, okay? That is about 10% of your grade, which can make a difference between a letter grade. There's another reason why you want to complete the assignments that I'm going to get to here in just a second. NetSuite submissions, I talked about those. Again, this is going to be our Wednesday start of class activity. I will walk you through most of this, and we're going to be walking through the activity and trying to work through these tools. It will be just kind of a step-by-step guidance. If you miss class, don't worry. Again, recording all class sessions, so you can do this on your own. But the goal is by end of class, you will have a deliverable. You will put that deliverable on Brightspace to show that you did the work. The deliverable is not technically due till the next Friday, so the next class session. So if you miss class, you still have time to make it up. But for the most part, I will assume that you're going to be able to finish the assignment and be done with it by the time class or by the time class that was over. Okay, these are not meant to be rigorous and try to just make you work hours on end and just ruthlessly tired and say, man, Dr. Barnes is ruthless with that NetSuite. I don't know why I chose the word ruthless. Okay, anyway, these are fairly straightforward and going to be low stress things, but they're going to be learning opportunities for us. As far as some specific things that are going to be unique to this course. So the first thing that I do for all of my undergraduate courses is something called a professional interaction write-up. And this is probably something that you've had in other classes. This is something that's starting to take off. Basically, this emanates from my own experience as an undergraduate. Has anybody ever heard the term networking before? Okay. Who do you think the worst person in this classroom is at networking? The person with his hand raised right now. Okay. I was terrible at networking. I did not have a job when I graduated with my undergraduate degree. I'm like, I'm going to move to Dallas and I'll figure it out. Okay. I did not figure it out, in fact. And it was a very, very bad time for it. It was in 2002, which was also the time that Anderson, one of the big 5 accounting firms, went bankrupt and or went out of business. And so I didn't have a job and I worked in a donut place for like 6 months. That is an absolute true statement, by the way. I'm not just being hyperbolic. I actually fried donuts in a donut shop for 6 months because I couldn't find an accounting job. What I would like for everybody in this room to do is I would like for you to be able to leave this university, have a job set up, and have a career path in front of you. Okay. Part of doing that is making sure that you develop your professional networks. Now, if you're part of a student organization here on campus, you're probably already all well into that. Do we have any DSP members in here? Okay, a few DSP, any BAPs? Okay, so people on that, if you're in a professional organization or another professional organization outside of that, I'm not going to mention all their names, but if you're doing that already, great. Okay, you're already on the path to developing networks. If not, you need to get in the habit of that now. You want to start actively looking for internships, want us to actively start talking to employers. Our extra credit assignment for this course is actually going to be related to talking to employers. Okay, but this is my way of encouraging you to do activities outside of the classroom. Because as neat as the classroom experience is for this course and other courses, a lot of what you value as a Truman student is going to be things that you do outside of the class. So we're going to have presenters throughout the semester. Usually we have an executive in residence. I don't know what the details on that are yet, but you're going to attend one of those sessions and you're going to write a paper that consists of 2 whole paragraphs. Okay. The first paragraph, what was the presentation about? Secondly, what you learned from it. That's all there is to it. It is not the write-up that I'm concerned about. It's your engagement, okay? And there's going to be several opportunities throughout the semester. So that's something to think about. It's very, very easy and straightforward. It's for 10 points, 10 easy points in this class. Okay. All right, the exams. All right, so the exams, there are two of them, two primary exams, and then one final exam that's comprehensive, okay? The first exam will take place shortly before fall break, and the second exam will take place before Thanksgiving break. It's not because I'm a monster, okay? That's just when they fit in the schedule, all right? I can be a bit of a monster at times, but yeah, that's just the way it is. It used to be 3 exams in this course, but I actually teach another undergraduate course which has 3 exams, and I was not willing to change that course, so I switched to 2. They are 100 points apiece. Primarily, I'd say think 60 points is multiple choice and 40 points is short answer. You can get an idea for what the exams look like because I already have my exam 1, exam 2 posted to Brightspace. I do need to update the study guides a little bit. The study guides are correct, but the chapter references are a little bit off. So I will need to update those. And part of that is, I think I explained this in the email. The textbook has changed context and they reordered some of the chapters, which is why the ordering of the chapters is weird in this what we're covering. So we're starting with chapter 1 and moving to chapter 4, and you say, why are we doing that? And the answer is because I want to cover the topics in a specific order. Okay. So I will need to update the chapter references, but for the most part, the content is all still correct. So chapters 1 and then chapters 4 through 9 will basically be our first exam. Then we'll go back and get chapters 2 and 3. Then we'll cover chapters 11 and 12. And then we're going to skip a couple chapters to go to chapter 15, which I realize disaggregated and looks like it doesn't make any sense. I promise in my convoluted brain, it makes perfect sense. Okay. The one thing I want to note on this is to be very, very conscientious of making sure what our schedule is for a given week, because it's very easy to go sequential. We're not going to be following sequence at every single point during the week during the semester. So make sure you're aware of what chapter we're covering. This particularly is relevant for homework. If you just say, well, chapter 1 homework was last week, chapter 2 homework must be this week. No, that is not correct. Chapter 4 homework, although technically speaking, it's chapter 1 and chapter 4 homework next week. So, as far as the exam goes, I do expect you to be in person if at all possible. I can make arrangements if that's not the case. If we do have to do as a reason, like say, for example, you get really, really sick and can't come onto campus, then we can work something out. Generally speaking, I try to avoid doing administration of exams via Brightspace because it is a pain, okay? As somebody who gave a lot of exams during the COVID era, that was the lowest point in my career as far as exam giving. It's so hard to do. It's so miserable. Plus, you have to have a proctoring tool. Has anybody ever used Proctorian of their courses? Yeah, those of you who are nodding your head, you're kind of like, also at the same time, okay? It's just misery, sheer misery. So that's why I like to do exams in person. All right. So you will notice the final exam is comprehensive. Raise your hand if you love comprehensive exams. I was going to call you a liar if you raised your hand, by the way. But so something that I did, this is a good thing from back in the COVID era, is that I noticed that a lot of the students were working really, really hard, but just exhausted, okay? And so I said, look, if you finished everything in this class, if you've done it really well in this class and finished all the assignments properly, I'm going to let you opt out of the final exam. And my students loved that, okay? So I've been rolling that forward now for 5 years, okay? So you were looking at the comprehensive final exam, and it's like, okay, I'm just not really digging that. I hate finals. I'm not really happy with finals. You have the opportunity in this course to not have to take the final exam. How difficult is it to avoid the final exam? The answer is not at all, okay? Because it is going to be contingent on completion of things that I expect you to complete anyway. So what are the things you need to do? You have to complete all homework assignments and NetSuite submissions, okay? So remember I was saying it's only 55 points for homework, but you might want to complete it anyway just because. This is a big reason why you might want to complete the homework assignments, okay? Completion of the professional interaction write-up, that's 10 points. It's very easy to do. 65 out of 75 points on the, this says group presentation. It shouldn't say group presentation. It should say individual presentation. Sorry. Let's just say presentation. There we go. All right. So it's not a group presentation, by the way. It's not a group presentation. It's just a mistake. That was a typo on the presentation. Summaries of presentations. There we go, which I'll explain here in just a little bit. And then completion of any extra credit opportunities offered. Probably the most important one, and the one that's usually the ones that sabotage the one is the no unexcused absences. I'll talk about my policy for absences. It's not a difficult policy, but it does require you to be a little bit conscientious. So we'll talk about that. 90 to 95% of my students have traditionally completed all of these and opted out of the final exam. If you are a Truman student, as every single one of you are, this is generally not a high bar to cross, okay? This only comes when you get kind of distracted or something happens, and then usually something bad happens, and then you have to take the final exam. But for the most part, most of my students opt out of the final exam in my classes, and I expect them to, because this is just a very, very rudimentary, complete everything in the class, do everything I tell you to do, and you're good. So you get rewarded for doing everything I tell you in the do. Aside from getting points, you get another reward. Now, how does this work? Basically, what will happen is I will take your two exams and I will take the average of your two scores, and that will be your final exam score. So now you're asking, well, Dr. Barnes, if I complete everything, but I didn't do well in the exams and I want to take the final, can I still do so? The answer is yes, okay? I will caution you that if you take the final exam, that is your grade, okay? There's no one or the other. If you say, for example, you're at like a 85% in the class and you think that you can take the final exam to get an A, and then you end up getting a 32% on the exam and end up dropping the grade down to a C, you've got a C for the course, okay? That has not happened in this course, by the way, this particular course. This did happen in my 221 class I taught several years ago, where some students thought that they could bump their grades up to an A and then didn't study for the exam and thought I would just give them whatever the highest of the two grades. I was very, very specific, and I said, no, it's whatever you score on the final exam if you take the final exam. Is everybody clear on that, by the way? I will come back and point to this point on the video if you ask me about this, by the way, at the end of the semester. So if you take the final exam, that is your grade for the class, okay? All right. AI research project, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, so you can actually notice there's some instructions on Brightspace. So click on the content tab, and this should be under course materials already. So basically, there are three parts to the AI research project, and the first one's not due until the end of October. So you've got some time to think about this, and we're going to have several class sessions to talk about this. Basically, what you're going to develop is a research question, a question you'd like to answer for your research, and a summary of your proposal, which is 1 to 2 pages. Now, this comes up, and I'll actually talk about this during one of our AI presentations. Can you use the AI tool to write your presentation? The answer is yes, you can, okay? Now, I would caution you not to just let it just slide, say, okay, I'm gonna have AI tool write it and I'm done, okay? If you do that, please make sure you read through the presentation before you submit it, okay? And edit it as necessary. Because as we're going to learn, AI is great, it is not flawless, okay? It does make mistakes, it does make have issues. But this is a green light AI class. You can use AI for everything except for exams in this course. Basically, the sky's the limit, okay? If you want to have AI record every single word I say and then make teaching notes that you can learn from, study guide notes, if you can find a way to do that, go right ahead. Go to town on that, okay? However you creatively can use AI on that, you can do that. So you can do that for your research project. Your second deliverable is another report, which is going to discuss your results. Again, you can use your AI tools for that. Again, please make sure you review the content that's developed, okay? And then you also, this is really, really important. This is true for everything that you use AI for. If you use AI for anything in this course and present results for it, you have to actually provide the context that you used AI. So say, for example, up here, the research question, you wrote the research proposal, you need to write in that research proposal, this paper was generated, developed by ChatGPT or by Microsoft Copilot or whatever AI tool you used. That's just the blurb. In the second deliverable, it's a little bit more detailed. You actually have to provide a script of all the AI queries that you used, okay? By the way, this script should be ginormous, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, if you've got like a 3 or 4 page script, you probably have not done sufficient research into your topic, okay? I'm not going to say it needs to be as long as some of the scripts were last year. I had one student submit a 95-page script from the ChatGPT discussion. That student went up over and beyond, but they really enjoyed their project. I'm going to say at minimum, you probably should be looking at 20 pages. Probably at the top end, you should be looking at 50. If you generate 100 pages of script and you're proud of it, go right ahead, okay? But yeah, there's a lot that you can get out of it. Once you start an AI tool talking, it will not stop talking until you tell I'm done, okay? Your third deliverable, this is kind of a unique one. I said it's not group presentations, and it's not group presentations. I need to fix the syllabus, and I still haven't done that. But this is actually going to be individual presentations based on the 3MT policy. Has anybody ever heard of 3-minute thesis? So this is actually something that was developed by the University of Queensland for research project presentations. You will develop one slide, and you will present on it in this class for 3 minutes, okay? And they will be recorded, and I'll talk about why they're going to be recorded, but For the most part, it's meant to be low stress and supposed to be a fun opportunity for you to share your findings and what it is that you learned from the experience. Okay. By the way, I will tell you that you should struggle to finish it in 3 minutes. If you do a 1 minute presentation, I'm going to say, keep going, keep going. But this is a culmination of all your work in the course. So 3 minutes should be a struggle. I probably will time you and let you know what your time is look like, but you should practice this in advance and try to get as close to 3 minutes as possible. That's the goal here. But the slides need to be dynamic. The presentations need to be about 3 minutes. But again, it's not supposed to be high stress because it's only 25 points. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further along in the semester. But again, this is supposed to be an engaging experience. I don't want anybody to come into this and say, like, this is extra work. This is an opportunity for you to ponder a question that you've always pondered and something that's personally interesting to you. It does not have to be about swimming. It does not have to be about haunted houses, but it also doesn't need to be about finance. It also doesn't need to be about accounting. It can be something that's personally interesting to you. If you're curious about whether or not it's an acceptable topic, come talk to me. 9 times out of 10, I'll say, that sounds great. Okay. Usually the only time I'll say something like that is, I really want a paper about why Dr. Barnes is the worst. I'm gonna say, I really not appreciate that you do not do that as an AI query. That would hurt my feelings. Okay. Which nobody's done that so far. So thankfully that's good. Subjective assessment. In all of my classes, I do now evaluate your performance in the class. This is my way of bumping you up if you are really close to a next grade. I don't like using this as a punitive assessment, but there are ways to learn or to lose points here. Easiest way to lose points, stop showing up for class. Okay. That's an easy way to lose class. I usually, for the first unexcused absence, I count off 5 points. Second one is 10 points. Third one is 15 points. That's all of them. Okay. So it's 5 plus 10 plus 15, that's 30 points. If you have 3 unexcused absences, you can basically say goodbye to this grade right away. Also, if you don't fully complete homework assignments or any assignments in this course, you can lose points here. Generally not as much, but it depends on if it's a habit. If you basically complete part of the assignments and do like 4 or 5 times, then I will probably penalize you pretty thoroughly here. If it's a one-timer, maybe not. If it's a two-timer, maybe a little bit. So yeah, that's basically the grades for this course. There's 535 points in this course that we've got associated with it. As far as participation and attendance goes, participation, obviously it's going to be really important, particularly on those days that we're doing active assignments and learning in the class. Okay. If I'm doing a NetSuite assignment, I expect you to be working along with me. Okay. If you don't work along with me, it defeats the purpose of us coming to class and doing that. So participation. Also, if you have questions or need to be engaged in something, then you can ask me questions during the lecture. Those are going to be the hardest ones, by the way, especially if the temperature in this room stays the way it is. I'm going to have to start wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Good gosh, I can't believe how warm it is in here. It's not so much warm, it's humid. Is anybody else feeling this? Humidity in a computer lab. That's just got to be a bad idea, okay? All right. Yeah. My IT coordinator is going to hear me complaining about this and just going to cut me off of all privileges. All right. So yeah. I realize that it can be a little bit challenging at times, especially when it's warm and you want to be doing something else, but I do want you to be here. As far as attendance goes, my attendance policy is pretty basic, okay? You all are adults. You get to make the decisions of whether you're going to be in class. If you can't be in class, you don't need to tell me the reason. I know a lot of you are going to have very, very good reasons, like you're going to have student events and professional endeavors or athletics. Those are fine. Those are automatic excuses, by the way. If say, for example, if you're on the football team, football players usually miss a lot of the Fridays coming up. So if you're on the football team, just tell me in advance that you're not going to be there, and I'll say, all right, good luck in the game. All right. That's going to be the kind of the litmus that I operate from. Other than that, if you can't make it to class, please notify me before class. Okay. Send me an email before class. It doesn't matter what the reason is. You do not have to tell me the reason. Sometimes I don't want you to tell me the reason. Some people have talked about bowel discomfort with me on email, and I really didn't appreciate that. Okay. I'm sorry if you're suffering from bowel discomfort, but that's TMI. Okay. All right. So just tell me you won't be in class. Where this becomes a problem is not the first or the second or even third time, but when this starts to become habitual, that's when I'll reach out to you and say, all right, is everything okay? Here's the deal. I'm a firm believer that being here on campus is much healthier for mental wellness and happiness. If you're in your apartment all the time or you're in your dorm all the time and you're basically sitting there just on the computer and just never leaving the dorm, that's where things bad happen for mental well-being. Now, I know that trust me, I'm not saying AIS is the solution for well-being, okay? But engagement and activity is, okay? And I strongly believe that. I try to be here on campus whenever possible, simply because I want to be engaged with other people. when I'm sitting at home in my office, it's very, very easy for me to, I've got a very comfortable chair in my office. It's very easy for me not to leave. But I do know that I'm not mentally well when I do that for long periods of time. So that's why I encourage you guys to do that as well. If it becomes a problem, I'll reach out to you and it will be a private conversation. I'll say, is everything okay? You don't have to tell me, but I really, really think that you need to be here in person in class. Okay. I want to reiterate, this is not an online class. It's much harder to do well in this class if you try to do this via Zoom than if you do it in person. Not impossible, certainly possible, but I would encourage everybody who's an in-person enrollee in the class to be here in person because it's much easier to engage. Plus, I get to see your bright, shining faces and whether you're trying to hide behind a computer monitor. Yeah. All right. I will say on the policy here, this is something that I've not had to initiate, but I do want to make you aware. Remember I said that the first 3 absences, you will obliterate your subjective assessment. One of my students figured out on that, says, well, I've already missed more than 3 classes, so you can't penalize me anymore, and just basically didn't show up the rest of class. And I say, very clever, very clever. So I've changed my policy since then, okay? And if you have more than 3 unexcused absences, I shouldn't say if you miss more than 3 classes. If you have more than 3 unexcused absences, I have the ability to adjust your grade as I see fit. Okay. By agreeing to be in this class, you're agreeing to that principle. That's why I put it in the class. Have I used this? I have never used this, and I don't anticipate ever using this. Okay. This is mostly to close a loophole that was open way too long several years ago. All right, academic integrity. All I'm going to tell you right now is if you want to work together with other students, that's great. I think you should all work together. I think you should coordinate. I think working and developing peer relations is important. Please do not, oh, I forgot to do the assignment. Can I see your answers? Okay, if you forget to do your assignment, you know who you should reach out to? Not to the person next to you. You can copy off answers. You reach out to me and say, Dr. Barnes, I completely and totally dropped the ball. Is that okay? Can I submit it later today? You know what I'll probably tell you? I'll probably tell you, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Things happen. Okay. If you copy off of your neighbor and do that verbatim and I find out about it, that's where things become problematic because that's a violation of academic integrity. It's where academic misconduct occurs. Okay. So please don't do that. I already told you my course policy note on AI. It is a green light class. Okay. If you have disability issues, if you need extra time for taking exams or extra accommodations, please reach out to the Disability Services, Office of Student Access and Disability Services, and also let me know. Okay. Extra credit. Is there an extra credit in this class? The answer is yes. Okay. So I know I have a lot of accounting majors in this class. Okay. Not everybody, but I promise I'll get to that in just a second. If you are an accounting major, this is going to be of particular interest to you. 2 weeks from Friday, we have something called Meet the Firms. Has anybody been to Meet the Firms before? Yes. If you attend Meet the Firms, you get extra credit. Now, some of you may not be at accounting majors and still may want to attend because there may be some firms there that specialize in whatever your discipline is. Keep an eye out for that list. If you attend Meet the Firms, you'll have to swipe your student ID and I will be given a list and then I will know that you're at Meet the Firms. So it's really important that you check in if you attend Meet the Firms. But this is on September 5th, I believe it is. September 5th. I think it's from probably 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is usually when they run that. If you are not an accounting major or if for some reason you cannot attend Meet the Firms, there is another opportunity. This is the Career and Internship Expo. This is going to be on September 25th, Thursday. So this is another opportunity for you and you just need to attend that. I don't know if they track the names on that, but you can just tell me if you attend. I'm going to trust you because again, like I said, you're all adults that you attended that and attended that. So one of those two you need to attend. If you do, you get 5 points of extra credit in this class. Okay. And remember, extra credit is not just the extra points, but also it's required if you want to opt out of the final exam. So take that seriously as well. Everybody got that? Yes.
Are both required to opt out of the final exam or just one?
Just one. Okay. And by the way, if you attend both because you want to be overachieving, you don't get an extra 5 points for that. Okay. It's one or the other. It's 5 points maximum. Okay. But if you want to attend both, I encourage you to do so. Just that's kind of cool to do. All right. Let's talk about some things about course conduct. So my evaluation of your performance is going to be based on both understanding and effort, but I don't really get to now analyze understanding until we get to the end or to get to the exams. That's my litmus for understanding. If you want to prove that you're doing a good job, make sure you put in the effort, okay? As my graduate students will tell you, I am a big advocate for maximum effort in this. I'm not saying that you need to spend 15 hours a week on this particular course in individual, but I do expect you to complete all of the assignments. I do expect you to be communicative where necessary. I do expect you to show up to class. Doing all those things will show me that you're taking the course seriously, okay? By the way, you may have noticed I talk fast. I don't do that intentionally. When I get excited, I start to talk a lot faster. If you need me to slow down, if you need me to repeat something, I am perfectly okay with that. Okay. By the way, if you really want a treat, go watch some of my lectures on 2 times speed. Okay. If you can understand more than every other word, I will be super impressed. Okay. That's somebody who took cross-examination debate back in high school right there who can do that. That's why I speak fast, by the way. I did cross-ex. And I know he's like, that's 35 years ago. When are you going to let it go, Dr. Barnes? Like, never, never. Okay. Um, Professional conduct is going to be important in class. I don't think it's not to say that we can't have fun in class. I was in the profession for 5 years and had a lot of fun. I was a big goofball, but being professional doesn't necessarily mean that you don't work. Okay. We will be here to work, even if we're having fun. We can do the same. They're not mutually exclusive. So please keep that in mind that when you're in the class, you need to be working my class. The biggest thing, the biggest faux pas, the biggest way to make me an enemy is to work on somebody else's classwork while you're in my class. Okay. If I find out about it, I may install a mini cam right back there just to monitor everybody. Okay. If I find out about it, your noses against the grinds, and I don't know what that is. It's just it'll tick me off. That's what I'll say about it. When you email me, this is a personal request. When you email me, try to make sure you do professional email presentation. This is not because I think that I deserve that respect. By gosh, no. No, that's not the case. But you do need to get into the habit of email etiquette moving on your career. So I try to encourage that through communications. So start off with a name. You can call me Dr. Barnes, professor. You can call me Michael if you really want to. I've had one student in my entire 10 years who's done that. Okay. Those are all fine. Correct sentence, paragraph structure, spelling. Make sure you do a sign off like regards or best wishes or something like that. I will do the same for you, even if it's just kind of a small email where I say, sure, that is fine. I will always start with your name and I'll always have a signature at the end. Okay. So that's something to get in the habit of just for good communication. Your work in this class is a combination of everything that you do in this class. If you do a great job in the first half of the semester and then kind of drop off in the second half of the semester, I don't grade you on half of the semester. I grade you on the entire semester. So I want you to make sure you keep up with the rigor the entire semester, entire the course. It's not to say if you struggle in the first part of the semester, you can't do well in the course. It's just to say that it's better to start off strong and stay strong the entire semester, which you're probably familiar with that because you're Truman students. Yes.
When it comes to the requirements, we now still want us to use proper etiquette.
Yes, please. Yes. Every email that you have with me, a proper etiquette. Yeah. Good question. This one probably will not come up, but it did happen a long time ago. I think it was like 2017. If there's something that comes up, there's a topic that comes up that I don't specifically cover in the syllabus, please let me know. Okay. If you have a question about a particular issue and you can't find an answer in the syllabus, please talk to me. The reason why is I do not want you to make your own judgment. I think that professional judgment is really important and you need to actually start exercising that at an early age. But with respect to this course, I don't want you saying, oh, well, he didn't say that this wasn't cheating, so it's obviously not cheating. Okay. If you're really concerned about academic misconduct, reach out to me and I'll tell you yes or no. I will give you a definitive answer. Don't try to make those decisions myself. Again, that is specifically to do with anything in this course that might be judgmental. Okay. Please make sure you reach out to me. I will appreciate it if you do. All right, some boilerplate stuff that you probably see in all the syllabi. I'm not going to go over this, but I am going to talk a little bit about the schedule. So like I said, we're starting off strong with chapter 1. Chapter 1's an introductory chapter, but there's a lot of content that will be at the lecture on Wednesday. Again, normally lectures will be on Monday, but I had to skip that because of the way that it works out. On Friday, we're going to be doing something a little bit fun to try to prepare you for the rest of the semester. We're going to have a Microsoft Excel quiz. And by I say quiz, this is not a graded quiz. I'm not handing anything out. Actually, what it's going to be is I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions, and then we're going to be going to poll everywhere, and everybody's going to be answering based on what they think the answer is. And I try to encourage my students to try to answer the native answers and don't be influenced by what the answers are on the screen, but that never works. So yeah, we're going to be doing some questions about what your knowledge is about Excel. Some of them are very easy. Some of them are a little more challenging. And then we're going to have a little bit of fun with AI. We're going to talk about some observations from AI. But remember also Friday by end of day is when your questionnaires are due. So beginning of semester questionnaires, please put that on your agenda. You will get a reminder, but you still need to complete those on your own. Okay. We'll start kind of our format for the semester next week. We'll go start moving that. We'll have a little bit of a skip on Labor Day, but for the most part, we'll be doing kind of our regular routine next week, and we'll see what that's like with lecture, followed by NetSuite and homework, followed by Excel and AI research. Just a reminder with respect to homework, your homework is due at the beginning of class, and we will review it in the last part of that class session. So chapter 4, 1 and 4, you should have already completed and submitted that to Brightspace by the time class starts. Has everybody done Brightspace submissions before? Okay. All you have to do is put it into a document. If you want to write it down by hand and take a picture, that's absolutely fine. Okay. I'm not too concerned about the format, but you just need to submit that to Brightspace and then we'll review that. When we review the homework, please make sure you take diligent notes on the things that we talk about. If you get a question wrong, obviously update your answers. And if I add additional information during the discussion, make sure you make notes of that. All right, we're at time. Are there any questions? All right, have a wonderful rest of the day. I'll see you all on Wednesday.